Well, welcome to our first live call with Profit First for Dentists Canada. And I'm super excited, of course, to have Barb on today because Barb is the founder of Profit First for Dentists. And Barb, I'm just going to give you a chance to introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are.
Sure. Hey, nice to be here, April. And I'm super excited for this adventure, I guess you'd call it, that we're on together. I've been 5 years now as a Profit First professional, and I wrote the book Profit First for Dentist, which is a subsidiary book of Mike Michalowicz's book Profit First. So I've taken his core principles and put them into the life of a dental practice, making that concept work. So yeah, that's kind of my claim to fame as far as writing goes. That's my only book I have out there, and I'm very passionate about it. And just seeing that there are dentists, honestly, globally, that need these services, and so being in the U.S. for myself, it's just a natural progression that I was getting requests from dentists in Canada, and that's where April comes in. I met April through the Profit First Professionals, and she's been working in Canada with other clients, and so we're now working together, expanding Profit First for Dentists into Canada. So using the same tools that we use in the U.S. and my background is dentistry. I'm a dental hygienist, so I've worked clinically as well. So incorporating the clinical side and the things that happen there that impact the financial side of the practice. And again, that's a global thing. We all practice dentistry pretty much the same way.
Absolutely. And yes, Barb, you and I met in New York. Oh my gosh, at a Profit First Mastery meeting. Oh
At
my
least
Lord.
2 years ago.
2 or 3 years
Three?
ago,
Yeah,
yes.
maybe it was three. Yeah.
And, I've been in financial services for over 25 years, classically trained, if you will, as a financial advisor, but one of the things that I found is that we were constantly talking about getting our clients into investments and to properly insurance, but one of the things that we found was we weren't talking about behaviorally on the other side of the equation. And what really attracted me to Profit First and to the book, well, honestly, when I read the first 2 chapters of the book, I thought Mike was in my living room and actually knew what was happening inside of our family business, but it works with the way entrepreneurs behave or their behaviors. And whether you're a dentist or you own a construction business, we all have these cognitive biases when it comes to our finances. And so, what really my niche has been for the last 5 years of also being a Profit First professional is with the health and wellness industry. And so, when Barb and I first got talking together in at Profit First Mastery Meetup, just the synergies of what I do in health and wellness and what you do in dentistry, and you were so kind to share your methodology with me. And one of the first things that you talk about and guide dentists through in your program is around mindset.
Yeah, it's huge. And I will say, that was a big part of me being an entrepreneur. And I had my own coach who helped me through some of those mindset issues. And I'm going to call them blockages
Mm.
because I feel like we get stuck and we sabotage ourselves. We have these blocks. And so for me growing up, I had different opposing views that I saw, like grandparents way different than parents. And so I really didn't know money management at all. And I didn't really understand the value of it.
Mm.
Luckily, I married a guy who were savers. And so I learned that through him. But when you start your own business as an entrepreneur, and you're making your own decisions, and this applies to dentists, um, you're kind of all over the place. If you don't really understand the money mindset. So, yeah, I thought that's got to be the first thing we talk about, because if we don't get our head wrapped around that and really dig into who we are as a person and how we relate to money, and what it means to us and what our earliest memories are about
Mhm.
money. I think that equates over into what's the value of the service that we provide. I
Mhm.
think so many times as entrepreneurs, what we do is a passion for us. Dentist, you're no different. And it seems so easy. We've learned the skills and they become so easy to us. And when someone comes to us and we see they're in need, it's just easy to say, "Oh, I can do that." And that
Mhm.
doesn't take much time. I'm just going to give that away.
Mhm.
And all those little things start to devalue actually what we do. It starts
Mm.
to then weigh on our psyche, on our own value. So I
Mhm.
think mindset is huge. And that's why I lead with that.
Absolutely. One of the things that I really love that you discuss in the book and also in your training and over on your YouTube videos as well is that, these axioms that all entrepreneurs and dentists have bought into of the pay yourself last
Mhm.
like mentality, which is not serving because with dentists and burnout in dentistry, couple that with financial stress and the whole buying into this pay yourself last methodology, your patients are coming to you because you're in the business of serving them, and we
Mhm.
can't serve from an empty bank account.
Right. I would even say to you that your patients want you to be profitable. That's a
Exactly.
pretty bold statement. And I believe it 100% that your patients who are coming to you want you to be profitable. And the reason I say that is because I know when you are profitable and you know it, when you understand your numbers and you get beyond the financial strains, you don't have that little shoulder sitting there saying, "Oh, this is a dollar sign. You need to
Mm.
make money. You need to make money. You need to see more people." That goes away. And you have the freedom now to spend that extra time with that patient and develop that relationship. And I think that's difficult to do when you're under financial stress. So
And
I would say your patients want you to be profitable because when you are, you're more relaxed and you spend more time
absolutely.
with them.
And you've got a really good example of that, of a story that happened to you just a few months ago.
I do. I'd be happy to share that. I'll try to make it brief. So it happened in February of this year, 2024. I was on vacation with my husband and our best friends. Um, Backstory: 5 days before we left on vacation, I had started a new medication and I was having a terrible allergic reaction to it. Unknown to me, each day was kind of getting worse. So this was fifth day I was taking it, and I actually was out. I fell face first onto concrete. Tooth number 9 was completely avulsed. 11 was partially avulsed and twisted. All of my front teeth were broken, uh, and had a fracture in my palate. Anyway, I was kind of a mess.
Kinda.
And within 30 minutes, I was sitting in a dental chair, and a dentist and oral surgeon were working on me. And that's just because I've coached dentists in every part of the country.
Mm.
And I had someone there that I knew. So I was able to get into a dentist office and the oral surgeon next door. It was 5 minutes to 5. Their teams had already left, but those two men put me back together, wired me together, and put everything back in place and um, sent me home. And so when I got home, I saw my dentist here in Nashville. She referred me to an endodontist. Obviously, I was going to need some root canals. And so I went for that appointment. And I have to say, it was very disappointing. I waited over an hour. Um, I saw him for about 10 minutes. He sent me to the front, said, schedule for 4 root canals. And I just didn't have a good feeling about
Mhm.
it. Was just impersonal, and I felt rushed. He was with other patients and didn't ask to be worked in. I asked for an appointment and I felt like I was being worked in. and he didn't have time. So I left there and I told my husband, I'm not coming back here. And I called my dentist and I said, I'd really prefer to have a biologic endodontist that just fits me and who I am. And she found me one, but I had to travel across the country to Houston, Texas. And that experience, 2 weeks later, was so different. When I arrived in the morning for my appointment, they were waiting for me. I was the only patient in her practice that entire morning. She took her own x rays, did a comprehensive exam. Turns out I had fractures in my chin and my palate, and I needed 7 root canals. So I know that the first guy had good intentions. He was just moving too fast. He
Mhm.
missed it. And I'm very grateful and thankful that I was able, make the trip to Houston. I went twice, had the 7 root canals done, and I'm healing up and doing fine. Restorations are not yet complete, but I tell that story because it illustrates exactly what I teach with the Profit First methodology. And that is, if you want to have those relationships and you want to have more days that are having a patient for half a day. Now, granted, she's an endodontist, she's a specialist, and I needed a lot of root canals. But you have patients like that too, who have large treatment plans. And what if you could just see, one or two patients a day?
Mhm.
You can do that when you have your finances under control, and you're relaxed, you're able to do that. I had a much different experience in that office than I did the first one where I felt like it was just too many people and rushing around. Um, so that's what I teach and that's what I help dentists do. If you want that kind of practice, it's possible, but you've got to get your money under control.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I really love about that story as well is that in the first office, you said there was very shiny and new and brand new expensive equipment that maybe, not the average patient would have the expertise to spot that. And with the dentist in Houston, when you traveled, you could see that it was older equipment, probably all paid for, not as shiny, not as probably in a great as prestige location or what have you. But as you said, she's seeing one patient a day versus the first experience that you had where you felt like you were going through
Yeah.
the mill.
Yeah, definitely there was a difference. So, the one in Houston had probably a third of the size of office space and definitely wasn't bad equipment. It was just older. It had been there, and she had actually moved to a new location, but she took her equipment with her there. I'm
Hmm.
sure. It was the equipment that she had before, the chairs and X-ray machines and all the things. And so you can tell they weren't brand new.
Hmm.
Um, versus, yeah, the first office was much bigger in a very high profile area of town. Brand new, everything, and that comes with a cost.
Absolutely. And I think, we feel this pressure of, the whole fake it till you make it. And I just don't buy into that. And we certainly don't buy into that with the profit first model. We want to make do with what we have. I kind of equate it to having a lemon and squeezing all the juice out of the lemon before you grab another one of what are the assets that you have. And I don't know about you, Barb, but I often get asked, well, profit first, is that, profit before people or profit before planet?
Mhm.
And it's not that at all. It's about what we just spoke of as paying yourself first as a business owner versus taking what is left over. And that's really what the concept of profit first is. And you talk about it as, in the primacy effect. Do you want to let us know how that works with a dent in a dental practice?
Sure. Again, I've had comments, on posts and things like, well, what does this mean that profit first? Aren't we supposed to be patient first? And
Right.
absolutely, I totally believe in putting your patients first. When you're in your office and you're working in day to day, things, yeah, everything you're doing is for your patients. But if you don't get the reward from that you deserve, you start to resent what's going on in the practice. And I don't know if this is you or not, but I talk to a lot of dentists who get the stomach ache on Sunday night because it all starts over again on Monday morning.
Mm,
And they feel that stress. And back to, how much we spend on all the things to get started. There's plenty of companies out there that sell used equipment refurbished. There's nothing wrong with it. We don't have to have brand new for everything. And I would also say that when you're borrowing the money, you're not actually seeing that cash in your bank account first. It's easy to spend borrowed money.
mm,
When you have a loan, you never really see that cash and you didn't go through the process to save that cash. So it's super easy to just say, oh, yeah, I have to have this. I have to have this. I have to have this and buy it all new. And that's okay if the numbers make sense. But most of the time, dentists are going into this not really knowing if the numbers make sense.
mhm,
So having a solid plan like profit first and understanding how to look at those numbers really changes the game. So when you maybe start with something a little smaller and some used equipment and build your way up, I love helping dentists to set aside that money for that piece of equipment that they do want to purchase new. And what's amazing is you get all that cash in there, you really have to think about it. Do I want to take that money out and buy this thing? I have to really, really want it. So to me, the idea of a loan versus you save the money, the cash, is a total switch here in the
mhm,
mind.
mhm,
Um, and so again, the primacy effect, by putting our profit first, by paying ourselves first, we are ensuring that we are paid as an entrepreneur and you're paid as a dentist working in the practice. And then and only then do we look at, okay, what do I have left now? Once I know that I'm taken care of, I need to run my business on this. And what happens is the other way around. What we've been taught is just go get the big fancy office, go spend the money, get the loan. And now we have a loan payment that comes around every month that we have to make sure we fund all of that. And I'm not saying don't have a loan. I don't want to sound like I'm, totally debt adverse because I'm not. I'm okay with having a loan as long as it makes sense and that payment is not overwhelming to you.
mhm,
So that's where I go with that. I think you still have to, the primacy thing is what is first on the list. If you're a list maker, you understand that. The thing you put at the top is the thing that gets done. So if you put profit and paying yourself at the top, and that doesn't mean you're taking all the money out of the business. It means it's a reasonable amount. We've planned for it. It has to work. We still have to pay the bills. But what we find is if we don't set that aside, it gets spent on
mhm.
something else.
Absolutely. So, if you're watching this and you're wondering how I can start making these psychological shifts, because we know psychologically we feel a loss two times more than we feel a gain. So, that's why if we lose $10, we're more sad than finding $10. And so, as Barb's saying, if you have that money in your bank account and you're saving it and you see it there, you really start to think twice about making those purchases. So, start right away by opening a savings account, label it profits. Just start small by putting 1% in there and just see how that builds up so quickly. And as Barb's saying, out of sight, out of mind, you'll start to see that you can actually survive in your practice without that 1%. So, what other shifts do you find happen for dentists when they start to use the profit first for dentist methodology?
I think that the first shift that happens is they really do find out that they don't miss 1 or 2% of their total collections.
Mm,
Like it's so easy to do. I think that in the past, maybe we've always heard save 10%, right? That's kind of been a thing out there. If you've read The Richest Man in Babylon, a lot of books, they'll say save 10%. That may be too much for you
mm,
to start with. And so I think a lot of people fail because they go too big too fast. And when we step that back and say, okay, let's just use, we have $1 million practice. 1% of $1 million we've collected is $10,000. I don't know about you, but for me, $10,000 is a chunk.
Mhm.
Sorry. And I would love to have that $10,000 sitting in account at the end of the year, where I could take a distribution from.
Mhm.
That feels really good to me. A $2 million practice, 1%. We're talking $20,000 a year. If
Mhm.
that's all you ever did, imagine 10 years from now, how much would you have saved? And if you invested that money, how much could that be in 10 or 20 years? It's
Mhm.
huge. So just that small amount um, really makes a big difference. And you're still going to run your practice. You're not going to even notice um, that it was 1%. And I can honestly say to you that it can be way more than that. I've never had a dentist only get a 1% return,
Right.
because we start looking at ways to, cut expenses or look at creative ways to, move money around, whatever that is. Where we're reducing expenses, every percent you save over on the operating expense side is another percent you can put in your profit account.
Mhm.
So imagine now it's 2%, 3%, 5% that you're putting in there and you're not even missing it. Um, I
I
think
worked with,
that's the
yeah.
key here. Yeah.
It's kind of like the carrot and the stick, right? So the carrot is the profit account, the stick is keeping your expenses. And I had a dentist that I was working with here in Canada, and she actually took her profit distribution to take her family to Disneyland. She has 4 children, and they before had gone into debt around vacation, and this time she took her distribution and had a prepaid trip for all 7 of them to head down to Disneyland. So, then you're in control of your finances as well. So, Barb, you wrote the book Profit First for Dentists, and we know it's a derivative of Mike McAllowitz. There we go.
Uh,
Oh, where's
Show
mine? I
it
have it
off.
up on the thing.
There we
And
go.
um, and it's a derivative of Mike McAllowitz's Profit First. And so, a lot of dentists may be tempted to read the book, your book or Mike's book, and start to
Yes.
implement it themselves. And I know you wrote the book for that purpose as well.
Yeah.
What would you say with dentists of first starting out, reading the book, hiring you? What are your sort of next
Yeah.
steps?
I mean, I think that if you're savvy already with yours and you're a do-it-yourself person and you're going to dig in and you're really going to follow it, 100% all the instructions are here for how to do profit first for dentists. The percentages, all the things are here. If you're a dentist who you're busy and you're busy doing dentistry, your schedule is largely seeing patients and you just don't have the time or the know-how, or you feel like you're just not as savvy with your numbers and you want help, that's where April and I come in. This is how we help dentists. If you need help with that assessment, we can do a full assessment of your practice and create a rollout plan for you. And so beyond the book, in our program and what we teach are some of the clinical side, not necessarily clinical, but some of the administrative things in the office. Can be clinical too, but some of those things that happen in the office, how they directly affect the numbers on the business side of practice.
Mhm.
So we do incorporate a lot more in our teaching and our program online. The book here is to get you through the profit first methodology and wrap your head around that and really doing it. So the percentages are here. Nothing is held back. Everything that I teach in my program about profit first is here in this book. The tables are there, the worksheets are there, everything is there. And I'll add a little side note to this. I'm currently working on a workbook as a companion to this book that will be coming out later in 2024. We will have a US edition and we will have a Canadian edition. And the reason for that is in Canada, the financial situation is different with taxes and different things there that we have to account for in those percentages. So, separate workbook for Canadian dentists versus a US dentist, but we're going to be rolling that out later in 2024. So, sign up, to follow us. You can get on our mailing email list. You can get in our YouTube channels. We have a channel for Canada and US, and you'll find April and I both there sending out these messages and these videos. And we want you to start following us. And if there's any way we can help you as you're, doing this, if you're the do-it-yourselfer, then those videos are going to be very helpful for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Barb. Yeah, there is no gatekeeping here. Barb does not hold back of her wealth of knowledge. One thing you should know about the program as well is that Barb has created an app just for dentists around the financial metrics of their practice, not just for Profit First. Also, with Barb's vast knowledge of dentistry, Barb knows those target allocation percentages for dentists. So that's one of the things, like, yes, you may have read Mike's book and thinking, why do I need to read Profit First for Dentists? You have to remember that Mike wrote that book for all industries and all business sizes, where Profit First for Dentistry is exclusively for the dental industry and those target allocation percentages. And the reason why we're bringing it to Canada as well is, like Barb said, our taxes up here are much different than in the States, including income tax, including payroll tax, and our insurance system in Canada is also much different in the States as well. So when Barb and I were working on mutual clients together in Canada, it became very apparent that we needed this workbook. So thank you, Barb. And I'll be writing the tax insurance side of it so that it will be very much geared to dental practices in Canada. So thanks so much for your time today, Barb. And as Barb said, you can follow us on all the socials to get more information on how to not do it yourself, but start thinking about and changing your mindset around the finances in your dental practice. So we'll see you again soon, Barb.
Thanks, April. Great chatting with you.